Oh, the dog's here. You gonna say hello? You gonna say hello? The baby! Okay, take two. Hi, I'm Fiona, I'm an illustrator. This is my channel for sharing my art, my sketchbooks, my processes, all sorts of things like that. Today we're going to be making a lino print, which is fun. I am by no means an expert in lino print or printmaking or anything of the sort, so this is by no means a tutorial. I tell you what, I'll find some good lino printing tutorial videos and link them in the description if that's what you want to do, if you want to learn how to lino print. But for me, this is just more of a, it's more like an artist vlog. It's more of like my process, me learning how to lino print a little bit better. So I'll show you the design we are going to be lino printing. I have my sketchbook. Ignore this page. So I've got this sketch right here of a dragon, and I am kind of inspired by the real sort of flatness of kind of European folk art, if you know what I mean. I want this to kind of look like the kind of embroidery you might see on, you know, like traditional dress, that kind of thing. I think it could make a really cool lino print because it's such a, I'm not gonna say it's a simple shape, but there's a certain sort of geometricness to it that I think would do really well with lino printing. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I say lino printing, I'll show you a design I've done in the past. So this is a lino printing block design that I've done before. It's a sunflower. It's similar to, if you've seen like traditional like Japanese woodblock prints, like the Great Wave print. It's basically like that, but instead of using wood, you're carving into like a sheet of lino. So you use lino printing tools to carve your design into the lino, and it's quite soft because, like I said, it is lino, so that's easy enough to do without needing, you know, like printmaking equipment. And then you use an ink roller to roll ink onto this, and then you use something else flat, like a wine bottle or a jam jar, to press paper onto the design, and you get as many prints as you want. It's nice because it's printmaking, so you get, you know, many copies of a design, but it doesn't have the polish of like digital prints. So it's kind of halfway between like a traditional original art piece and a print. So I think it's nice because, I don't know, it lets me sell prints that have had a real human touch to them. This is something like I have made, do you know what I mean? But I think it's really nice. So let's get stuck in. I'll show you my process of making a lino print. The first thing I'm doing is I've scanned the sketchbook page we just looked at into Procreate, and I'm going to neaten it up a little bit and tweak some things before I get it ready for printing. What I'm doing here is transferring my design onto the lino block using graphite paper. So if you've not used graphite paper before, the way it works is you lay down a sheet of the paper and then you lay your design over the top and then trace over it by pressing down quite hard with a sharp pencil, and your design will be pressed onto the lino in graphite, ready for you to carve out. Out of all the different steps I'm going to be showing here, this is probably the most unnecessary one. You don't actually have to do it like this. If you're a massive badass, you could just draw your design straight onto the block, or even just start carving straight away. I'm not that cool and carefree, so I'm going to do it this way. And as you can see, there's the design nicely transferred on. Onto the fun bit, it's finally time to start carving. So you do need specialised lino printing tools to do this bit. They're called gougers or just lino cutters. I've got a few different sizes of them, but mostly I just use this teeny tiny V-shaped one for almost everything, and then a bigger U-shaped one for clearing out bigger areas. Also, please excuse my massive head looming into every shot. Apparently I cannot lino cut without being 4mm from the surface of the block, apparently. And okay, one other thing to say. This is very much a case of do as I say, not as I do, but please be so careful about how you position your hands when you're carving, because it is so easy to slip and jab yourself in the fingers. I have gotten so many little V-shaped mild stab wounds all over my hands in the past from doing this, and honestly, watching this back, I'm realising how close I am to being impaled actually, so please learn from my mistakes. Please don't become like me. The tools are very sharp, so please do be very careful. I'll also mention here that you can get a few different kinds of lino block for printing from. Here I'm using traditional hessian backed lino, which I prefer because it's easier to get smaller details out of this kind. But you can also get soft cut lino, which as it sounds is easier to carve, but I do find that it's harder to get small details from that. And there's also Japanese vinyl, which some people swear by, but I've not tried it myself. There's not really one best option, you just gotta try the different kinds and see which one you prefer, and yeah, I really like the hessian backed kind. I did carve this block very slowly, bit by bit over the course of a few days. I wouldn't recommend doing hours and hours of lino carving in one day because it can be really tough on your wrists and your hands, and you kind of get some strains and soreness for it, so yeah, you can take your time. And here's the block all carved and finished. And here's the massive pile of shavings that I've cut away, which I find very satisfying. Hello, hi, so it's a new day and we have finished the lino block. Well, I say finished, but I do fully expect to have to go back in and tweak things after we've done the first test print of this. So here's what we have so far. It's not a huge thing to look at right now, as in it's not a lot to look at right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to be rolling ink onto this with a little special ink roller and making some test prints. Obviously it's going to be mirrored from this, so the dragon will be facing the other way, because if you can imagine how it prints. But yeah, let's have a look at how this is gonna print and we'll see if we need to make any changes. What I'm predicting I might need to change is, I'm half wondering if maybe some of these are going to be catching ink, some of these sort of ridges to where I've scraped away the background. And I might need to do some more carving to totally remove those. But we won't know exactly what we need to do until we've done a test print. So that's going to be the first step. You get lino printing ink in big tubs like this from art supply shops and all the other tools I'm using as well. I haven't used this ink in a little while, so it's gone really thick and gloopy, and you can see me rehydrating it with a spray bottle of water to get it rollable, and I found that worked okay. I also rolled out way too much ink, so you can see me kind of scraping away some in the corner of the frame there. Have I mentioned that I'm very much not an expert in this? This is very much a learning experience. The tool I'm using for rolling out the ink is called a brayer. I think I'm saying that right, or just an ink roller. This is low-key my favourite bit because it makes me feel like I'm in Splatoon, you know, like playing Turf War, you know what I mean. You lay your paper on and then there's a few different ways to transfer the ink onto the paper. Very dedicated people will have a proper lino printing press, but I very much do not have the space for that. I'm just using another clean ink roller, which is working okay for me. But this is a step that you can very much DIY if you're just starting out. You can just use something heavy with like a smooth flat bottom to it. So like maybe a jam jar, or you can roll a wine bottle on it if it has straight sides, something like that. As for the paper, you actually want the paper to be fairly thin and very smooth. So basically the opposite of the paper you'd choose if you were going to do watercolour or mixed media. If the paper is thinner and smoother, it's going to adhere to the lino block better and you'll get a more even transfer of the ink. Here I'm using 140 GSM Seawhite cartridge paper and also 90 GSM brown craft paper to sort of compare and contrast the results and see which I like better. Right, okay, so we've done our test prints. Now it's time to have a little look at them and decide what, if any, changes we want to make to the lino block itself based on this. So I'm immediately thinking, I think I want the flowers to be a little bit bigger, which was kind of hard to tell when I was looking at the lino block itself. but now what's come out, I feel like, yeah, like this one could be a little bit bigger. I also think some of the stars could be a little bit more well defined. Like the points in here have kind of lost their pointiness. And I'm definitely going to want to clean up some of these like little ridges that have caught the ink as I've been rolling it, and tidy up the claws a little bit as well. They've definitely lost their definition. I think I'm going to deepen these lines around the face here, around the ear, because I feel like we've kind of lost, it kind of disappears. The lines are too thin, the ear just kind of disappears into the body, so this needs to be a little bit deeper as well. And also the eye, so I want the eye to look like a little, I want it to look like the pupil is a little star, but that's not very well defined either. So yeah, these are our test prints. I'm actually quite happy with how they've come out. I don't think they need a huge amount of work, which is great. And I've also really appreciated this little experiment. So I normally do my liner prints on this plain white paper, but I just thought, maybe just try some brown craft paper, see how it looks. And it is like a ridged texture paper, so I wasn't sure, but I actually think that's come out pretty cool. I don't really mind the appearance of the lines. I think it sort of adds something. But yeah, so back to the liner print. I'm going to be finding some of these shapes a little bit more, and then I think we're going to be ready to rock and roll. Take two on the printing. As you can see, I have once again rolled out far too much ink because I did not learn my lesson last time, apparently. I really love this whole process though, because it just feels so organic. I think I spend too much time on Procreate and Photoshop. So when I do something like this, there's something really authentic about getting actual ink on my hands and really feeling and experiencing the hands-on process of printmaking. I think a big part of the appeal for me is that relief printing has just stayed basically the same process for hundreds of years. Like, this is not so different to what I would have been doing if I was an artist way in the past, which was kind of magical. I do find it really easy to get into a state of flow when I'm printmaking. Like, I love digital art, but I also get distracted, I have other things on my mind, I wander off and that kind of thing. But I don't really feel like that with printmaking. The steps have got this repetitive rhythm to them that's kind of hypnotizing, and it really clears my mind, and before I know it, hours have passed. It's a really mindful thing to do. Like, I could just do this all day. I think it's because of the physicality of it. Like, it feels really real when you work for the prints rather than just pressing a button on the printer, if you know what I mean. I do also love the little mini thrill of the reveal moment when I pull the paper back, because you're never exactly sure how it's going to turn out. I sometimes notice that I'm even slightly holding my breath when I pull the paper up, like as if it's a spell that I'm going to break. But yeah, every time I do this, I ask myself, why don't I do this more often? So I really do hope in the future that I'll have more prints to show you, and I really do hope that I get better at it as well. Hello, I'm back, and I think we finally have the liner print finished. I'm very excited to show you. So, where I saw you last, I was at this kind of stage, where I was getting these little kind of chunky lines appearing around the edges of my print, where the ink was rolling onto kind of the grooves of the lino. I don't know, there's probably a word for it. And I was neatening it up and getting rid of them, and I eventually realised that it was much simpler if what I did was literally just cut away the edges of the liner print so it isn't catching the ink. And I think this is finally done. I think this block is ready to be used indefinitely, basically. So I'm going to show you the final prints. Woo! Ta-da! Here we go. I'm so happy with how this turned out. Like I said, I'm not a professional lino printer, and I think there's a lot of areas which I could improve with this, but I'm still really happy with how it turned out. We are still getting some of these little lines appearing around the edges, but I'm actually kind of thinking like, maybe that's part of the charm of lino print. It's meant to look a little bit handmade. It's not screen printing, it's not digital printing, it's meant to have that kind of organic touch to it. So I'm going to kind of embrace this. But as you can see, removing the very corners of the actual liner block itself has gotten rid of some of the worst bits of it. I have also done, 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 I have a few copies on, I've been using brown craft paper, which is slightly harder to print on because you do get these kind of like lines appearing from the texture of the paper. But I think it's a really cool effect. I think that would look good on, actually you see how we have green walls in here? I think that would look really cool like that. And also I picked up some blue liner printing ink, so we've got a blue version as well. I think this might be my favourite. Isn't that so cool? But yeah, I'm really happy with how these turned out. I'm really glad that I did this. And thank you for following along the process with me. And I hope this has inspired you to do some liner printing of your own. And if you are a super experienced liner printer and there's something I've been doing all along that's made you been, you know, cringing, that's made you think, oh my God, I wish you would just do this. Please help me. Please come and tell me what I could do to improve. I would really, really appreciate it. But yeah, that's been it. And thank you so much for coming along and thank you for hanging out with me. Bye.